That's probably better. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. Yes, all right. Thank you.
Well, mine's not as big as yours.
I don't know. It looks quite impressive.
It's not bad, but it's a Simon's cat one.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent. It's not the cup, it's what's in it that's important.
I know. I was feeling like that. We've got rain this morning, which is good.
We haven't yet, but it's the first day in a few weeks where it's been quite cloudy. So yes, the garden is praying that it's going to rain.
Yeah, ditto here. And I've got a load of new plants in. And I've been watering them, obviously, but it's nice if they actually get some rain as well. No, so I'm quite pleased. And the fact that I had a wet cat in this morning.
Who obviously wasn't pleased, I wouldn't have thought.
Oh no, she doesn't give a damn.
She's not mine.
No, she doesn't mind going out in the rain at all. She does. She doesn't like the wind if it's very hard. But she's only about sort of yay big, so it just sort of sweeps her off her feet, and she doesn't like that. But no, she came in wet, so the first thing you get sort of, on your bare skin is damp cat.
Quite often.
And then you look at the sheets, and you see there's lots of nice, pretty little muddy footprints all over them. And you go, "Good morning, darling. It's so nice to see you."
What a welcome.
Well, she sort of stares at me if I happen to mention the sheets to her and go, "So?"
And yes,
exactly.
Go away and have them cleaned.
Well, you mess around with these things. I don't care.
No, I think the land has been suffering, hasn't it? We were out and about last week, so we had a few days off, and we went on quite a few dog walks. But wherever we were, the land was cracked and dry and miserable. Basically, it was crying out for some water.
Yeah. And there's, I'm going to get this right. I still can't do reversing. There we go.
No, I can't get it all the time.
Got reversing. That's what I want to do. Yeah.
I can never get.
Please laugh at me, people. I'm laughing at myself.
I can never get hood straight.
Well, I can do it in an ordinary mirror, but this is sort of reverse.
Yeah.
And it's a bit like trying to back a trailer. Have you ever done that?
No, I haven't.
Oh, I have, but years and years ago. And you're used to backing the car, and then you have to reverse that to back the trailer, because the car goes that way,
the other way.
The trailer then goes what was I doing? That way. and it's like I can't do this, my brain's boiling.
Yeah. That's physics or maths or a combination. No, that's not, my head doesn't work like that.
No. And if my husband happens to be in one of those utterly stupid moods that I don't know why husbands seem to get into, but they do, and he promptly tries to explain it to me in sort of higher maths or something, and I just wish there was an ejector seat in the car at that moment. I would definitely press it.
I feel they would be quite popular.
I think so, yeah. Bang, ouch.
I think you found a gap in the market there.
Yeah, now guys, anybody into this kind of thing, just design an ejector seat for a car, preferably one where the lid flips up and the hood is on the roof as well, because I don't want a smashed hole in my roof. Yeah, I imagine there would be, but yeah. So I find this sort of like trying to back a trailer. It's really bad.
Yeah.
So, are you all used to us by now, people? Do you think they are?
Well, if they're not by now, then it's too late.
This is it. It's WYSIWYG. What you see is what you get. That's it.
Absolutely. But I wouldn't have it any other way.
No, I wouldn't either. I just imagine us trying to choreograph our chats.
Yes, you may have guessed, the audience may have guessed by now that we don't have a script
No.
or even a subject.
No, most of the time we don't even know what we're going to talk about.
No, we'll wing it and see what happens.
I can suggest one, but I'll be talking about it forever after I come back. But you can have a preview. I'm going to be rolling about on the ground with wolves.
Oh, excellent.
Yesterday week.
That sounds like fun.
Oh, it is. It is. It is. I have met, not these wolves, I have met wolves before, but I've never had the opportunity to actually be in with them. There's about 4 or 5 of them, maybe 5 or 6. And you spend most of the time on the ground.
Right.
Which is quite sensible, really, because if you're standing up, you're probably a bit, even me, I'm probably a bit taller than them.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like,
Got to get down to their level.
Absolutely. And then, you know, they roll you around and lick you and chew your trouser leg and all this kind of thing. I'm just going to be adoring it.
Yeah, it's going to be fantastic.
Yeah.
What an experience.
Yes. And you can do it down in Cornwall. I'll put up all the stuff after we come back.
Excellent.
Where you can go. And it's only like 2 people at a time. And obviously you cannot take your dog.
No.
So don't even think about that. And you have to go through all sorts of things. I've told Fiona to tell me to take these off.
Oh, yes.
Because, you know, what's that?
Yeah, you don't want them pulling your earring.
Well, A, it's probably not good for the wolf to swallow earrings. And
No.
B, getting it out of my ear wolf fashion is probably nothing like what I do.
No.
I don't want to do that because I really don't want to scream at the wolves because otherwise they will get in a state. No, they take photographs of us and apparently we howl with them.
Excellent.
Whoa.
Brilliant.
And I think it'd be just a case of trying to get rid of us rather than your time's up. Get out of here.
I'm sorry, ladies, you have to leave. Call security.
I don't think you'll bother with that. The bloke who does it, Sean Ellis, he's a great bloke, but he's an ex-Marine and he's a big tough guy. So I think if we're in the way, it's just pick us up and throw us out.
Yeah. That's down in Cornwall, did you say?
Yeah, near Foy.
See, we were supposed to be in Cornwall last week. We were supposed to be on holiday in Tintagel, and it got moved, obviously, from last year 3 times, I think. Yeah. And then a couple of weeks ago, the hotel decided that they just weren't going to reopen. So we ended up having a staycation.
Right.
We ended up just staying in and around home, and actually it was fantastic because we just explored or re-explored our local area. So and of course the weather was beautifully sunny, so that was fantastic. But it's funny the amount of people I keep hearing now they're going to Cornwall. We were supposed to be there last week.
I'm sorry about that. I do recommend it, but I mean, we have unfortunately had to pick the worst weekend we could possibly have managed. The first bank holiday after lockdown is going to be heaving. I know where to go where it won't be heaving, so it's all right. And we've got a little static caravan. It's only one of 3 and it's in this little hideaway place on the moor. So
sounds perfect.
It'll be nice. Well, if it does work out as nice as we think it is, I'll give you the Addy and then you can just, if you want to go there, because it's the trailer sounds very nice, so it's self-catering and it's not expensive, of course. There's a shop on site, and of course there are masses of shops everywhere and there are masses of pubs everywhere, so you're all right. So I'll give you the Addy if it works out okay.
And lots of Cornish pasties, obviously. And cream teas.
Yes, neither of which I can really do.
No,
I'll eat the cream. I shouldn't eat the jam. I certainly can't eat the scones.
Because of the flour.
that's it. And the pasty will be fine, but Fiona will have to do 2 dollops of pastry. And since she's keto too, that's not a good idea.
Obviously, you need me there to eat all the pastry.
Well, there's probably room in the back of the car. So what about it?
As soon as I do,
We'll pick you up at Bristol or Exeter or somewhere.
No, it is a beautiful part of the country. I do love
is.
Cornwall. There is something very, very special about Cornwall.
It's another land.
Mm.
It really is.
Yeah.
I always know it, whichever way I cross the border. It's just and it goes right up your spine. And
you're there, aren't you?
And I'm here again. I've never been. I would have liked to have lived there. At least I thought I would, because my dad knew it very, very well. And he used to live there. He used to build boats down in Falmouth at one point. And so he's taken me there ever since I was tiny.
Yeah.
And I thought I'd really like to live there, but I've never been able to.
Right. Not meant to be, perhaps.
No, the land spirits like me, and they're very happy for me to visit and that sort of thing. But I've mentioned living there, they go, no. And he used to go, okay then.
It's funny, isn't it? That there are some places perhaps that you are meant to stay.
Yeah.
Just on the edges.
Yeah. You can visit, but you can't live.
Yeah.
And it's something really, isn't it? As you get to know the land, you get sort of like to learn the feel. And some places, I'm sure you've had this, you just can't go to.
Yeah.
It's that bad. No, I can't go there.
Yeah.
Sorry, turn left now. Cancel the booking, whatever. And it really can be like that.
Yeah.
Other places say, oh, great to see you. Yeah, fine. Now, when are you leaving? Shall I get your coat? And other places just say, oh, yes, come in.
You just know, don't you? Just Bath is one of their favourite places. As soon as we hit Bath, I think, I'm home. I feel comfortable here. And I never want to leave when it's time to go.
It's a lovely city, and I don't mind visiting it. And again, I can't live there.
No, I mean we've sort of talked like you do. Oh, maybe we'll retire there one day. Who knows? But we do keep going back because we do love it.
Yeah. It's I'm never quite sure. With Scotland, I adore Scotland. I love it, and I'm very fortunate because Fiona lives up there. So
I've not been. I've not been to Scotland.
Oh God, I think you really should. Really.
Let me see. Durham's probably about as far up the country as I've.
You're nearly there by then.
Yeah, not far. But the scenery. I mean, I've obviously seen lots of photos. The scenery is spectacular, isn't it? It's very special.
Go to the Highlands. I think you will like that best. And talk about dark skies. It's just there isn't. There is nobody, and there are relatively very, very few people up there, so it really feels wild. The mountains are just like stunning. And so's the coasts and the beaches, especially the west coast and the long sandy beaches. And but I don't know if I could live there.
No. I
sort of get a bit of, well, I suppose you could if you must. And at least I don't get completely turned out as I do from Cornwall. It's like, no.
See, I would have thought with your connection to Ellen of the Ways that Scotland that to me seems like her country. So
But the boreal forest came all the way down to the tip of Cornwall.
Originally. Oh yeah, so covers anywhere really.
Well, anywhere on that latitude, that was about as far as it could ever get down while it was still cold enough. And of course, as it's got warmer, it retreats upwards, because the trees and everything can't do it. But no, actually, where I am, I really like in Shropshire. I mean, the hills around here are just stunning anyway, and the walks and there's places and everything are fantastic.
Yeah, some of the photos you put up when you're on your walks and things are, fantastic scenery.
Yeah. You know, and you sort of think, well, I probably haven't even taken the car out to go here. And that I do like.
Yeah.
But, you know, if I do take the car out, it might be sort of 10 minutes up the road to get to somewhere to park and then walk. So that's really, really nice. I loved living in Devon as a child. I love Exmoor. I love Dartmoor.
Oh, Dartmoor is one of my favourite places. Yeah.
And it's so, you know, you think, yeah, it's a moor. No, it's totally different from Exmoor. Completely.
Yeah. There is something very mysterious, I think, about Dartmoor. Yeah, love it.
There is about Exmoor too, but it hides it nicely. It puts on a pretty frock. And goes, aha. And you go, oh, whoa. And you meet something, you know. I love Yorkshire.
I went to York as a teenager, and I do remember that it was beautiful, and it's one of the places on our list to go back to, definitely. Yeah.
And the scenery and the beaches up in Yorkshire are fantastic as well, if you want that. But the moors and the mountains are.
It's funny, isn't it? I ask the question quite often when I'm doing workshops or talks with groups, and I will say to people, what do you consider your sacred place? Where's the place that you go to that really hits your spiritual spot? And usually it's the old favourites. It's Stonehenge, sometimes Avebury. Glastonbury is usually the first place that people say. And I apologise to Glastonbury, but I don't like it.
Well, I apologise too, because I don't like
Stonehenge much either. Avebury,
no, not anymore. No, and I'm not that keen on Avebury anymore.
I would, out of the three, that would be my one to go to. No, they wouldn't. None of them would be my first choices. I apologise to everybody, but you know, each to their own. I'd rather go and sit in the middle of Dartmoor than any of those places.
Oh, absolutely. Same here. Yeah, or the places I know on Exmoor.
Yeah.
Just like, whoa, you know. And they sort of knock your socks off in a completely different sort of way. But I have sort of bad troubles with both Glastonbury and Stonehenge, and I'm so old, because of course when I first went there, Glastonbury was not like it is now. When you went to go up the tour, you could go up the back lane, and there was a field, and the farmer didn't mind if you parked the car in the field, and then you just walked across the top and up, and you climbed as you wished. There was no path. And that was something else. That was like, you're there. And all the spirits were truly alive, and nobody had walked all over them, and nobody had put their own ideas and traditions on top of them or anything like that. It was just the place. When I first visited Stonehenge, I was 8 or 9.
I must have been too, before it was all roped off.
Well, there wasn't even there was only the A30 in those days, and there was no fence either side. And I expect the same happened to you. Is Dad pulled the car off on the grass verge, and we just walked across the field.
Take a picnic, sit on the stone.
And it was just like, and then it was like, you know, I mean, we're actually, the first time we went, we're actually on our way up to London. And so Dad had set off early because he obviously realised that my stepmom and I were going to be like that, because she'd never been either. And so we sort of packed loads of food and stuff in the car. And we were there for 3 hours.
Yeah.
And nobody came.
No.
You know? And we just sat there, and you went and found your stone to go and lean your back on, or sit on, or touch, or whatever, or walk around. And there was nobody like telling you, and you weren't there with the sort of headphones on listening to some archaeological guide about it or something. And And that, it was sort of like, I can't top that.
No, I think it's lost a bit with all the tourists.
I do.
think because I've been there in the last few years, and I've been into the centre and done the whole ritual thing. So I have still been into the centre of the stones, because obviously generally you can't even get anywhere near to it.
No.
But for me, it's lost something. It's got that marketing kind of publicity.
Yeah.
Too many touristy energy for me, really. It's kind of lost it.
Yeah, it has for me too. And it's also, and the same with Glastonbury. It's almost like the spirits have sort of gone, put a shelter up.
Yeah.
And really, and I'm not the only person I know who said that. And said, no, it's covered. And if you touch nicely and say, may I talk to you, you may get something. But you might also go away and sleep.
Yeah.
And
for me, it Glastonbury, actually, the White Springs, not the Chalice Well, the other side of the road, in the little dark.
Is that the Red Spring? I can't remember.
Yeah,
Anyway,
I remember
the other one. Yeah, I know.
Not the Chalice Well, the other side of the road.
Yeah,
in the dark. It was an old Victorian water pump house, isn't it?
That's right.
That was where I actually led my first ritual as a high priestess. So that spot's got a little bit of a special place. But yeah, and I quite like the Abbey. I like the sort of energy in the gardens of the Abbeys. But yeah, no, I'm afraid it doesn't do it for me, really.
And I mean, it's lost. It used to have a couple of really good bookshops, and they're gone. And we used to go there, Paul and I, 30 odd years ago, for the books. And there were a couple of really nice cafes.
Yeah.
And we would go for that and go for a walk around the Abbey or walk up the Tor. But I think really once they put this, the path in and sorted it all out and regulated your car parking and all this kind of thing, it's, no. I mean, I know why they do it, and I understand.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't want to do it like that.
No.
And
I think if you haven't been and you get the chance to go, then do
go.
There are some interesting shops, there are some interesting sites, but explore a bit. Don't just do the high street, do explore. But there are still some really lovely cafes and bits.
There are. That's one thing they do well. Yeah. And they do also probably still do the best fish and chips in the universe. No, they always used to have a super fish and chip shop, which is absolutely great. But no, explore it. And just because, these two old witches don't happen to like it, doesn't mean to say you won't.
No, because I know lots of people that do, and I know lots of people that get the calling to go. So everyone's different, aren't they? You've got to find your spiritual connection, definitely. But I also think if I want to go to a sacred space, I go to my own back garden too. And in fact, we've got the beach 5-minute drive from us. We ended back there every day last week on our holiday. No matter where else we went during the day, we ended up back at the ocean because it just kept calling me. And that's a traditional English seaside town. We've got piers and arcades, and there's quieter bits and there's gardens and things, but it was so amazing. And that was right on my doorstep, and not at all what you would call a sacred space.
No, it's probably got people all over it, and ice creams and kiss me with cats and all the rest of it. But
we did only go in the week. I wouldn't go down at the weekend when the sun's shining, far too busy. But yeah, I think it's about I've got my battery low warning. You've got to find your own place, haven't you?
You have. Excuse us while this woman just plugs herself in.
Yeah. Gotta have my connection.
Yeah, it's amazing. Those electrons just can't make the gap if you haven't turned it on.
Come on, jump. See, perfectly timed. I think it is, isn't it? It's about making your own connections, really. And I think last week for me, I obviously wasn't meant to go to Cornwall. was about making reconnections with my own local area, and I'm always banging on about that to my students. Reconnect with your local area. I think last week was a yes, but do what you.
How about you doing it?
And it was amazing.
I've got a bit of that
on my doorstep.
Yeah, I've got a bit of that now. Cause there's places. I haven't been up the Caradoc this year. There are a couple of times when I could have, but I haven't. And that's my pointy mountain with the cave on the top. And Fiona's coming down. What day are we? Wednesday?
I have no idea. Yes,
anyway,
probably.
Yes. She's coming down on Thursday, which I think is
that'll confuse people because this goes out on a Thursday.
So right, she's coming down on a Thursday, and we're actually recording this the day before because of blah 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 various reasons. But anyway, she's coming down, and with both of us been past this. You can see the mountain and everything from the road, and you can see it really well from the train. And when I used to go up to Scotland on the train, we always went right past it. And every time it was like, really must go there, and end up living there. Whoa. But anyway, she's always wanted to go up there. So Friday is going to be when I take her up there. And that's like a revisiting for me.
Yeah.
And there's another place I haven't been to since last year, which is me.
Yeah.
You
can hear them niggling.
Yeah. I mean, there's quite a queue actually back there.
Yes. Yes.
Last year, yeah. It's like I can't do it any more than at least one a day, and possibly only about 3 a week. So okay.
Make an orderly queue.
Well, I'm not sure it's orderly. Sounds very grumbly to me. Going on behind there. But no, and I totally agree with you. I mean, I say it all the time to my students is, do your work and your rituals at your own place. I don't care if it's the public park.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. One of my students lives in Liverpool, and one of her walks is along the river. And she finds, and it's quite popular, of course, so she's rarely there on her own, but she still finds she can do stuff there. It doesn't matter about the crowds. And she said, actually, quite a lot of people who walk past go, well, sorry, and they leave you alone. And it's not nasty. It's like, oh, she's doing something. I'm not going to disturb.
Yeah.
And that's so nice.
Yeah.
So yeah, do your own place. Do your place, definitely.
Yeah, it has to have meaning to you, doesn't it? And you have to feel comfortable wherever you're doing it, whether that is your living room or your front room or top of Ben Nevis. I don't know, wherever you think.
Can get a bit crowded up there. It's a little bit sort of like the British version of Everest kind of thing, You've got to do it. And I've never been up to the top. I've been up a bit of the way. Fiona's been up to the top. She slept up there one midsummer, which was amazing. She got told she got to do this, and it was like, okay, really? Okay, at least it's midsummer. At that latitude in Scotland, she got possibly an hour or two of dark.
Right.
So, you're there, and it's at best sort of a rather darkish twilight. And she said that was totally fantastic. She just used it up there in a bivvy bag, and so that her head was out all the time, so she could look at the stars and watch the dawn and watch the sun do its very small effort of going down. And
I think it highlights, doesn't it, just how many amazing places there are in your own country, in your own area, even. I mean, we ended up on Butser Hill, which is the highest point on the South Downs, which was amazing, and various other because we're a historic war town, basically. We've got all sorts of amazing places and historic places to visit. Most places have, haven't they? And I mean, I have a list of places in England still that I want to visit. I have a long list of places to visit.
A long bucket list and that sort of thing. Yeah. Well, if my bit's on your bucket list, there's usually a spare room. So.
Yeah, I was definitely coming on some of your adventures.
Well, please, you're very welcome. And it's amazing that's the other thing. And you probably found this last weekend, and we're looking forward to it down in Cornwall, is like you get there and you think, oh, I'll just do that. And then your feet get turned off there. And you go somewhere which you may end up where you thought you were going, but a different way.
Yeah.
And you think, oh, I didn't know this was here. Even when it's somewhere really, really well.
Yeah. I think it's about looking at your local areas too, haven't we? We've discovered a little farm that's fairly local to us that does all sorts of. They do bushcrafting days and spend a day with the alpacas and all that. It's for kids, but we've decided that perhaps they'll let adults go as well, and we'll do that instead.
I think you should. It's usually very good fun. I'm not quite sure whether the dog would be all that happy about it.
So yeah, it's about exploring your local area and discovering, because there's bound to be all sorts of things and I think people, especially with the last year that's happened, are getting quite out of the box ideas, like this, petting farm place doing bushcrafting days and alpaca days and things like that. They're expanding to bring the money in, so you're supporting your local businesses as well.
You are, and you're doing things which are a hell of a lot different than sort of lying on the beach with your headphones in.
Oh yeah, I couldn't do that. That's not me.
Not me at all. No, I'm not that good at lying on beaches.
No, I'm not.
20 minutes, half an hour, I'm bored. I want to do something else.
Yeah. And then I go and investigate, picking up stones and shells and rock balls and.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's all people are different and that sort of thing.
Wherever you are, it has a history, doesn't it? It doesn't matter where you are in the world. The land has a history.
It does,
and it's investigating that, isn't it?
And it's worthwhile, without sort of needing to take an open university degree, it's worthwhile investigating the geology, the actual rocks that have built it.
Yes.
Because we were just talking about Exmoor and Dartmoor, and they're so different. They're on totally different rock. And that rock has a spirit. I mean, you work with crystals, I work with stones and crystals and things. So that like that. But then, there's this bloody great crystal, actually, that we're all, well, sort of stone anyway, that we're all sitting on, third rock from the sun. And it's got its different bits in it. And Exmoor, for instance, is a very, very, very old land. It's Devonian, which was called Devonian because they first found this rock and the age of it in Devon.
Right.
So, actually a sensible name.
Yes. Not very inventive, but that, yes.
Well, hell, whatever. And it's often read, and the feel of it is completely different. Dartmoor's volcanic.
Yes.
Or is not.
Get that feeling, don't you? It has got that Hound of the Baskervilles to it, hasn't it? It has got that
very much.
Yeah.
And a lot of the hills, they are this sort of shape, and that's because millions of years ago they were actually volcanoes.
That makes sense. It has definitely got that feel to it.
Yeah, I mean that's why it's granite. And why you get all the lovely crystal on it and all that sort of. Though we do get crystal on Exmoor too. But it's like you feel into it and you think, oh yeah, you used to bubble, you used to fountain everywhere, and then you think Exmoor is sort of like, no, I'm just sort of a big body that sort of shuffles and is there and grows trees, and you get totally, you start getting into it, you get a totally different feel because you're heading from a different place. you know.
I think you and I are both the same too. Although we like the pretty crystals, you can work with a pebble or a shell equally, sometimes better, with the energy of it and working with the magic of it. I love to work with, you know, all pebbles, shell. I collected quite a lot of pebbles and shells last week.
And I've still got an enormous collection, some of which needs to get sort of like sorted, and some of it will either get put in the garden or given away or something, because, you know, we've done our stuff. But no, I was thinking ordinary pebbles. I've got one immediately to hand, but
they do all have their own different energy.
Yeah.
Like you say, it's the geology, isn't it? Because I noticed that even last week, I was on Butser Hill, which is quite chalky, and then down at the ocean with the pebbles that are there, which are completely different to the pebbles with, say, a beach that I'm familiar with, Charmouth.
Yes.
Which are completely different types of rock. And, you know, sea glass in Charmouth, no sea glass in South Sea. Shells in South Sea, no shells on Charmouth. So depending on where you are in the country, the energy of the rocks themselves will be completely different too, isn't it?
Yeah. And that's, to me, that's all like, that's the personality of the land. Charmouth, say, as opposed to South Sea. And they have a different personality because they've got, you know, different bones and different skin. Soil is skin, like, you know. And so, you know, you and I are different bones and that sort of thing. And that's sort of different. And if you start to get to know land like it's a person.
Yeah.
Because it is.
Definitely.
And you will learn so much.
Yeah.
And you probably find this, John, I dare say you teach it. The land actually wants to be talked to like a person.
I noticed this when we were up on Butser Hill, because it was empty when we were up there. And because it hasn't rained, it was very dry and very cracked. The grassland was all struggling. But I think it was really sad. And I think it's because people just haven't been visiting, because we haven't been allowed to drive to places to go for walks. There aren't any houses near it. You have to drive to be able to walk. I think it was missing people. It was missing that interaction. It was really quite sad. That's the sort of energy that I got from it.
Yeah, I found that with places. Oh, you know.
Human.
Yeah, hi. And they do miss you when they've not had people. I find it, because, you know, I adore archaeology and archaeologists and this sort of thing. And so if we get the chance to visit such a site, you go. And when we've gone, it's often like, it's really nice to be able to show you all this. This is how it was, you know, 10,000 years ago or whatever you're looking at. And it talks to you like this. And you learn from that. And to be honest, once you've like got the hang of it and got over the usual problem of self-belief, I must be making this up, you know, okay, sometimes you are, but you know, there are sometimes, quite a lot of times you're not.
That's most of my entire existence. Everything I do on a daily basis.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, this is something, if you're not already doing it, do listen to the stories. I mean, and then, I mean, you've probably done this too. I've checked up on, you know, I've got a story from this place that I've been. And then you go like hunting on Google or in the library or through friends or whatever. And you find, oh, it was.
Yeah. That's one of the other questions I get asked as well from people very new to this pathway. How do I know? How do I know it's not just my subconscious talking to me? How do I know I'm not making it up? How do I know if it's the land speaking to me, or deity speaking to me, or the stone speaking to me?
Yeah.
I think that comes a little bit with experience, doesn't it? But it's about trusting your own abilities as well, isn't it? Which again probably comes with a bit of experience.
It does. It's very on the job training, and you have to get used to it. So you actually have to get used to one of my other favorite topics is making mistakes.
Yes.
Because you can get it wrong.
Yeah.
We all do.
Yeah. Been there, done that, got the t-shirt.
Absolutely, probably about to do it this afternoon, so don't worry. But you have to get used to the fact that it's actually fine. Nobody's going to beat you up or send you to detention or refuse you dinner tonight or anything frightful like that. And Otherworld don't get cross. They're really not schoolmastery, schoolmarmy people.
Yeah, no, they're not going to strike you down with lightning or anything dramatic like that.
No, you have to be pretty nasty for them to get around to that. and just making a mistake that, you thought that this was a well here and it turns out that it's not. That's absolutely fine. But the other thing I find is when you find that, and I mean, I've been there and I thought, that looks like a well. There ought to be a well, and there ought to be a spring under there. And then you find out that it's actually a borehole. It's a human. It is a well, and it is a spring.
Yes,
it's a human-made one. It's not one where the land naturally throws the water up. And so you go back and you say, "I'm sorry about that. Actually, can you tell me a bit more about yourself and what happened?" And then you may well find out I had this actually with a borehole, and there was actually quite a lot of interesting history about how it happened and why. And I eventually found there was an old story about it. This old chap who like had a drought, and what was happening and what he'd done, and that he actually dowsed to find this borehole. It was sort of about the late 1890s kind of thing. That was sort of really interesting, and I wouldn't have found it if I got it right.
But that for me, that highlights the fact that it doesn't have to be an ancient sacred spring to have a spirit or an energy. Modern stuff's got it too. It's everything, even your 1970s concrete car park. It might be quite an unhappy energy.
Like, I don't like this coat they put on.
But it's still going to have an energy. I've mentioned the White Springs. I think that's what. That's an old Victorian pump house. So it's got this real reputation for being an ancient spiritual place. And it's not. It's a Victorian pump house. It's got a lovely spiritual energy to it.
Yeah.
But
the water was actually there for a long time.
But the actual building is really modern, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like, well, what is it even 200 years old? It's probably not.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel 200 years old sometimes. Time goes past so quick.
I know, but I mean, 200 years would only be 1820, so yes, it could be. Yeah, and when you make something new, I mean, it's not the same now, but when it sort of started off, Paul and I were very much involved with the original ley line researchers in this country. And is it Paul Broadhurst? Is it? Was one of them? I think it was him.
That rings a bell.
And several other people as well. The one who started Fountain thing down in Brighton, we knew him very well, and people like that. And Hamish Miller is one of the people who helped me really get a handle on dowsing, and we used to explore and experiment a lot because we're part of there's only a small group of us really then. And what happens if you do that then? And so asking first, but you get on this ley line, and you say, "I'd like to play with you. Is that all right?" Okay. So I want to block it. So you try various ways of blocking it, and then of unblocking it. And what actually happens? What does it feel like? Somebody will say, "Well, this is happening in my hands," and that's going up my spine.
Right.
Or, I'm seeing this color, or whatever.
Yeah.
So there's lots of really interesting stuff like that. And then we sort of say, "Well, can I put a line here?" And say, one of you or two of you probably would sort of like, right, I'm going to make a line from there to there, just across somebody's garden or something like
Yeah.
that. And they're all good dowsers. So first of all, you say, is there a line in that area? And so people go along with their various means of dowsing it. No. And then you put the line down. I'm not actually going to say how to do that on here, as we do not wish the place to be littered with lines. It's bad enough with plastic bags. And we were good people, and if we put a line down, we took it up, as long as it didn't say, I need to be here,
Yeah.
But so you put it down and then go, oh, it's here. And yes, you can. You can set a line, like from one corner of your garden to the other, and then you can pick it up and dissipate it, dissolve it again. So that tells you an awful lot about how these energies happened, and that they are intermingled with humans.
Oh yeah.
And we do have an effect. And I don't know, I would never call myself a high priest or anything like that. Neither would Paul. I haven't done any of that kind of thing. But I think, if you've got the experience and the training and you've worked at it, then you are the sort of person who can do that. And it's worthwhile realizing that you can, because it actually helps your own self-worth thing,
I think the key there is knowing how to do it is all well and good. Knowing how to undo it is more important. Don't attempt
important,
yeah. Don't attempt it if you don't know how to undo what you've done.
No. And because you really don't want to leave things littered around. We never did. But learning about doing it and undoing it. Also, before we actually did it, we'd ask the place we were in, do you mind if I try this?
Yeah.
One of the places we used to work, because we used to know the woman, Pauline Flick, who used to own Roll Right Circle a long, long time ago. And we would go there to work because she didn't mind us being there. And she was actually very interested, got involved. And so you'd actually put a line between one stone and another stone where there wasn't one originally.
Right.
And then take it away, of course, because the stone didn't want it there. But it didn't mind you learning. So the place actually helps you. You're decent about it.
Yeah.
And clear up after yourself. They're very happy to show you and help you learn how to do things.
I think that's with anything, isn't it? Whether you're doing a ritual or looking for a pine cone or taking a pebble from the beach, it's just manners to ask first, isn't it?
Absolutely.
To ask the land first.
And
definitely.
And check out. It's sort of like if I came around yours and I did the washing up, it's sort of like, do you want me to dry these up, or do we just leave them here? And you would tell me what was the practice in your house.
No, we've got a teenager to do that. He has to learn his allowance.
That's fine. That's fine. I would back away and say, over to you, But I would ask you what the process was in your house.
Isn't it? It's manners.
Not just go away and do what I would do at home, sort of thing. And it's always decent to do that. And also then, like when you say you're messing around with putting a line or working with pebbles or working with a crystal grid or something, then check with Otherworld and with the place and the crystals. Have I cleared up sufficiently? Have I missed anything?
Yeah.
Because you can.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Easily done.
Yeah. And I swear, this is something I say to my students, is you're not on your own. You haven't got to think it all out for yourself. Ask the gang. Ask the guys. They will help you.
Yeah.
But they won't be in your face, telling you, go clean your room, pick up that, blah, blah, blah. They don't do that. But
I think ley lines are fascinating, aren't they? Because you can't see them, you have to feel them. And some
you can see them.
You know.
Yeah,
Not
but
like a line on
no,
the road.
no. It's not like the highway, not like the white line down the middle.
Yeah, you've
No,
got to connect to see. Yeah,
you have to connect to see them, and they are.
Some are stronger than others too, aren't they? I've done rituals down at Knowlton, which is an old Saxon church, and there's a ley line that runs diagonally across the church. And when we did the rituals, I used to go barefoot, and you could feel as soon as you'd stepped on that line, it was like stepping on underfloor heating. It was very bizarre. It was so different from the area around it. You could feel it through your feet straight away. Really powerful.
Did it change width?
Yes, like pulsing, perhaps.
Yeah, or even just, is this wide today and yesterday it was this wide?
Yeah.
Because we've always found that.
Yeah.
And some of them seem to go on sort of lunar or solar cycles.
Right.
Which is quite fascinating.
Yeah.
And it's a whole study in its own right. And there are still a couple of people I know who are doing it, although they don't, as far as I know, they don't teach any of it anymore, and they're probably all about my age and decided they won't bother anyway. But it's you've got to really get out of the box and explore it and feel. But the lines, they're everywhere. They connect everywhere. And there's two, Fiona and I've called them like ley lines and dragon lines. That's because we're just dragon freaks.
No, I know them as dragon lines too. Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
But ley lines, I've never met one that isn't straight.
No, that seems to be the thing.
Dragon lines never are. They always curve. And they very often follow rivers and streams and things like that. And even underground streams as well.
That makes sense to me. Yeah.
And so this was really, we found this too while we were still working with the ley lines group. And there were a couple of people in there who were a bit sort of bullshit, and they said, no, there aren't. Oh, no, it's just ley lines. And you go, oh, okay, fine. I'll go and have coffee over here. But there really are. And the curving and curling ones, you find there's a cross between. We do a lot of old footpaths, and you've got loads of them around you. Some footpaths are straight, and it's worth feeling in and seeing if that's a ley line.
Right. Yes.
Quite often are.
Yes.
But also, when you've got a curling one, and especially if it's an old one, to see if that is actually a dragon line.
Dragon line. Well, that makes sense, doesn't it? Because people would naturally follow the line of the energy. Yeah.
And animals do, and we've watched that happen.
Yes.
And they will go down a particular line, or they won't go down it, or they won't cross it.
Generally, they're far more perceptive to these kinds of things, aren't they?
Much more. Well, they don't have all our sort of
no preconceptions.
Human crap. My cat, and I'm sure your dog does, they sort of look at you and go, really? Oh, it's human again. Never mind.
Yeah, Eric won't go through, he hates going through a cemetery. We like to walk through all the old cemeteries. It's uncomfortable the whole time that we go through them. He hates
There's a hell of a lot of energy comes up from those.
Yeah.
And an awful lot of it's not good, actually.
Yeah, no, he doesn't like that at all. Bless him.
I don't altogether blame him.
No, I don't. We don't take him now. We take him other.
No, you've discovered that he really dislikes this.
Yes, we don't force him to go through it now. I think it's children as well as we used to go to Devon a lot as children. We have family down in Axminster, Lyme Regis. Spent a lot of time down there as a child, and we always used to stop. There was a pixie house on the way, just like this old stone building, and we used to have loads of pixies, gnome statues and things outside the front, and I absolutely believed in it all. And my uncle used to tell me that he worked for King Nemo of the Pixies, and I absolutely believed him. Absolutely 100% believed him. There was even what the King Nemo used to leave me presents, and I'd find a little bracelet or sweets or whatever wrapped in leaves when I woke up in the morning. And one particular time I was quite poorly when I stayed with them, and I woke up the next morning to find a bottle of cough medicine wrapped in leaves from King Nemo. And I can actually remember telling friends at school that my uncle worked for King of the Pixies, and I absolutely 100% believed it. He didn't, obviously.
No, did he not?
I don't know, maybe he did.
Absolutely. Yes.
But I think that for me is you start to lose that, don't you? Obviously, with us, you then regain it.
Yeah.
Once you learn about it all properly. But children are so open to that kind of thing, and I think it's fantastic.
Children are as open as animals until somebody tells them not to be.
Yes. Yeah.
Fortunately, nowadays there seem to be more parents who are not telling them not to be, and just saying, "I wouldn't talk about that at school if I were you, but it's welcome, at home, or with your friends who are okay." Well, why shouldn't I talk about it at school? Because they'll probably all jeer at you and laugh at you, and somebody might bully you, so don't.
Yes, the flip side of that is that children can be very cruel.
Very cruel indeed. Yes, yes. And if there is one who is, one of these sort of bullying control types, that would be something just to jump on.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah,
absolutely. So, it's like keep your head down. Then learn how to do that. That's another thing about growing up.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are very, very. I was very open, like you. I had an uncle who definitely was at least half fairy. And looking back on it, no, I can see it.
Yeah.
And, various people told me, "Oh no, he's just your Uncle Jack," sort of thing. And now looking back, you just don't know. I mean, he would stand in a field, and he would just put his arm up, like with a fist on the top, like that. Nothing else. And within a minute or two, a wild hawk or falcon would be on his fist.
Fantastic.
And he never called, no vocal calling at all.
No.
And he could call owls, and he taught me how to call owls, and I still can. And he'd do all sorts of things like that. And there are still people who can, and there certainly were when we were growing up, lots of them. And,
I wonder if it's something that has been, even simple things, simple things like predicting the weather and just being able to tell by the formation of the clouds or the way the birds are flying what the weather's going to be like. That a lot of that's been lost, hasn't it? I mean, I'm lucky. My dad, always been into nature, organic gardening way before it was fashionable. Always had an allotment. Knows all the animals, knows all the plants, knows all the birds. And I grew up that. He was the one that took us to Stonehenge, but he used to take us to all different sorts of historic sites like that as children. And I learned an awful lot. And I think that's probably where my pagan pathway began, really, as a child. But I wonder whether there's perhaps not so many of the
I think
connected folk. I don't know what the word is really anymore.
Connected older folk who can take the children and teach the children. No, I think there are not. And people laugh at you so much if you talk about this, still in the wrong places. And most people can't handle that at all and don't like it at all. I tell you, well, certainly I've noticed with myself and with my own students, the more they get into this work, the more they can come back if somebody starts jeering.
Yes.
And they're actually totally convinced in themselves, and they can sort of turn around and say, well, if that's like it is to you, never mind, don't worry about it. This is how it is for me.
Yeah.
Without sort of getting in a tiz-was about it. Which is very important. But I don't think there are so many older people who are able to go back to their experiences And probably people of about 30 something, they may never have had an experience like that with an older person.
No.
And
No.
that's tragic.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's sad. I am very thankful. My dad, touch wood, still going strong. Still drinking his red wine and talking to the birds.
Sounds good, man.
But yeah, I guess, I don't know, too much else available perhaps at them now with all the technology and everything. I don't know what it is. Perhaps farming again is completely different these days too.
Totally, isn't it?
Yeah, that's been completely
so much about money rather than making a living or producing food.
Yeah.
I mean, it's about, how rich you are. And how rich you are has become so important. I think we've said it before, it's particularly that, was it New Year tsunami in Asia years ago, and you got sort of the tsunami X height of waves, and happened at 10 o'clock this morning, and it's now costing $15 billion to put right.
Yeah.
And you go, as if $15 billion. What about the animals? What about the people? What about the trees?
As if that was the most important. Yeah.
And I think that has harmed a lot of old ways. I mean, you don't want to bother looking at the clouds. I mean, you've got an app on your phone, haven't you?
The kids do that. Oh, it's raining outside. Well, look out the window. Don't look at your phone.
Yeah, exactly.
Just look out the window.
Exactly. And I had a lovely story. A friend of mine, he doesn't normally come over particularly yokely, but he does look a bit like that, and he can do it very well. And he was up near Dunkery Beacon, which is Pointy Mountain on Exmoor, and his farm is up on the side of it, and so he's in the lane. And this, I don't know, something like an open top Beamer came along with these two young people in it. And excuse me, he took one look, and went, "Oh yeah, what you want then?" And my sat nav tells me there's a view around here. It says a young posh man, and so my friend sort of turns around and says, "Yes, you can see it really well if you look." Morning, we walked off down the lane.
We're laughing, but it's horrifying. Really. It is horrifying.
I mean, you really can. I mean, there's a damn thing sticking up because he showed me where it was. And I think, if you're relying on, what's the weather app telling me? What's this app telling me? Does this other app tell me whether I should be eating this food or taking that medicine or doing whatever? And people talk about losing their power.
Yeah.
I want to get my power back. Well, throw your bloody phone away then. No, I'm not that bad, honestly.
Yeah,
I use my phone a lot.
Yeah.
But for God's sake, be reasonable about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Getting the balance.
Maybe.
So now you're throwing your phone away. We've done our hours.
And I'm going off to I'm just going out for a quick practice howl. So
yes.
I'm going to go out for
make sure you get it right.
Yeah. I shall get my ear nipped by a wolf. Not like that.
Or you could actually be swearing at them in wolf. Who knows?
I should be very careful.
Well, have a fantastic time, and I am looking forward to hearing all about it when you're back. That is fantastic.
And just a quick check, we can share screen on this, can't we?
We can, yes.
So
we get photos.
Well, they say they take photographs of us rolling around on the floor, and that would be good for a laugh, if nothing else. That's Ellen's foot sticking out of that wolf now. But if we can, I'll try
definitely
and get them up for next
Yes,
time.
we'll look forward to that. Excellent.
And then we can share and say, no, you can do this too.
Brilliant.
Okay, take care,
Right.
Ellen.
Have a fantastic
soon.
time. Okay.
Will do. Bye.
Bye.